His name is Dave Schultz, and what he has built turns heads, but there's more to it than that. As photojournalist David Stonebreaker and I found out, he doesn't just build. He wants to bring a new type of entertainment to the public.
In Poland, in Western Europe, in Africa, and deep inside the Soviet Union.
In World War II, German tanks rolled through much of Europe.
Spearheaded by the tank formations, the German armies swept eastwards.
Now, a small version of those same tanks can be seen on the streets of Wichita.
Well, I make things.
Dave Schultz is a man in love with the past and with a dream for the future. Dave builds scale model working tanks.
I have about 2,500 hours in fabrication, and then I don't know, in probably 1,000 to 2,000 hours design. And that's what I would do, is I would design at night and go out in my shop and make details in the day.
And they are detailed. This tank he calls Heinrich, a scratch-built, fully operational steel, aluminum, and plywood 1/3 scale reproduction of a German D-model Mark V Panther tank. And they're powered by 11.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engines.
These two weigh between 1,400 and 1,500 pounds.
And yes, they do fire real bullets.
Any 12-gauge ammunition, plus blanks.
But that's not all. This tank he calls Helmet. It's a 1/3 scale reproduction of the German Mark V Panther tank.
These here, I built two at the same time. Okay, the Germans used one chassis to build a number of different vehicles.
He's an engineer and designer, and not just a model builder. His dream is to create something that's never been done before.
A guy I worked with told me a story about the movie South Pacific. And Bloody Mary asked a young Marine there, do you have any dreams? And he said, no, I have none. And she said, well, if you don't have any dreams, you'll never have one come true. And I like that.
His dream is to create an industry that uses scale model tanks and airplanes not only as movie props, but for a show where participants could actually recreate and fight some of the great battles of World War II.
Because I want to fight a battle using radio-controlled army tanks, airplanes, the whole thing, right? But it's not the vehicles, it's the numbers. The battle that I send in my report, two tank armies collide. 700 tanks collide in one day. And I don't see why I can't use these.
Dave Schultz imagines a show that could travel from city to city, educating, reliving, and entertaining a new generation about warfare.
But I am into the fun part of this now. Okay, a lot of my sweat now is in any product. There's the design in that phase, and now it's time.
Dave Schultz hopes to interest others in his dream.
So there's my drift. I'd like to establish an industry using scale model armor.
So, if you happen to see a German tank rolling along, you're not dreaming. You're seeing Dave Schultz's dream, at least the beginning of it. You know, he really is an amazing man to have that kind of talent and that kind of time to be able to put those things together. And will his dream ever come true? We'll just have to catch up with him a little later and see if it happens.
And now every kid in Wichita wants one of those.
Well, I don't think they could probably afford one, but they're fascinating pieces of history, really, is what he has.
He's fascinating, too.
He certainly is.
And how do you define